It's hard to believe that just 3 months ago, we were just breaking ground on this rear extension. And now look how amazing it looks. We're so happy with the progress so far. So last week was a really big week for our house renovation because all of the glass for the windows and the bifold doors arrived and they were installed. And this really made a huge difference because up until that point it was building works on a rear extension, but now it feels like part of our home. Also last week the roof was finished and it's looking great as well. And not forgetting all of the electrics that were in place for the lights, the sockets and all of the appliances ready for the work this week. And speaking of this week's work, this week is another huge milestone for our renovation project, and I know I seem to say that every week, but it really is. Because this week all of the piping for the hot water underfloor heating is being laid, and then on top of that the concrete screed for the floor, and that'll mean we have a floor. And it really was interesting stuff filming all of the hot water underfloor piping going in. It's mesmerizing stuff to watch on the time lapse, so let's get to it. It's coming up next. So today they're getting all of this area prepared for the next stage, which will be insulation, and then Friday there'll also be some more concrete, like a top layer that goes on top. Now this next layer of concrete is actually quite thin, so it'll just run away if it has anywhere that it can escape. So for example, under here, you can see there's a gap and that leads to the opening that's under the main house, where the concrete would just run away into that. So Finn's taking this temporary door out here, and that's going to allow him to get access down under there and do some boarding up, or at least making that watertight. Goodbye, faithful internal door.
Strong man.
Oh yeah, did alright, didn't he? So this is the insulation going in, and you can see there's just big slabs of it everywhere, and then they tape the seams.
work out your length. There's 2 rows. There's 2 rows in, so 4 meters. So 3.82 rows. 40.
So we've got Dave and Archie back, and that's because it's time for more concrete pumping. So while they're waiting for the concrete lorry to turn up, they've been setting up all of the hoses and pipes for concrete, and we'll have a little run inside and we'll have a look and see what they've been doing. This will all be very familiar from a couple of videos ago. So if you remember me saying earlier, we had a layer of this damp-proof membrane, and then that really thick insulation, and then another layer of damp-proof membrane. Well, now we're about to get our next layer of concrete.
This one's like up 8.
Oh, so you can tell how much out you are.
Yeah, it says on the screen.
All right.
See there, that's level 0.
So as you can see, they're just getting it up to level there. As soon as it touches the bottom of that indicator. Occupational hazard, huh? Dave just needs to come back and reclaim all of his tripods, and no doubt he'll do a little bit of checking, and I think that there might be some tamping to do, so we'll see. And then there's a huge cleanup of all of his equipment, you know, all of his pipes, the tripods and everything else that is used for the job. And the next day the concrete screed had set, so that meant it was safe to walk on, and so that meant that Lee was able to go on there and start trimming back all of the expansion gap foam and also the excess damp proof membrane that was sticking up a little bit, trim that all the way around the room. And it took a bit of doing because there was a lot of it. And at the end we were able to see what the floor was going to look like. And while the new floor was being poured in the rear extension, some other things had been taking place at the same time. So for example, all of the scaffolding's been coming down at the front, or at least most of it. Scaffolding companies tend to use you as the storage for their materials, and they'll only come take what they need when they need it on another job. But they did give Lee a good price for the job apparently, so it's just one of those things you put up with and play the game. But here you can see they're taking down all the scaffolding at the front. You can see my poor cars are still at the front on the grass, but soon they're going to be able to get back onto the drive, and once the garage conversion's finished, then under one of the covers I've got a little classic car that I'm restoring, so I'll be able to get that in the garage and then it won't be rusting away on the lawn. Also, there's been some work going on in the garage. And Finn and Lee have been working in here, so this is kind of like the back of the original garage really, and it's all being insulated, and that's because right above is our master bedroom, and because this isn't a heated garage, even though it's well insulated, it can get cold here in winter, and we don't want the cold radiating up into our master bedroom, so that's all being insulated there. And of course in the main garage, the garage extension, last week all of this got insulated in. If we pan round to the original garage again, there are some areas that aren't insulated from the original build, because this was an extension put onto the side of the house in the 90s, this garage. And so I'm going to take all these boards down and they're going to insulate up in there and reboard and skim. But then this final section where you can see the garage lights, I've kind of done this already on the left hand side because the ensuite's above it and I had all the floorboards up, so I put insulation in. So it only leaves this small section. And I don't want to take more ceiling down. It's what I think I'm going to do for this small section is take some floorboards upstairs in the master bedroom and insulate from above, and then that'll all be done. So a lot of talk about insulating and boarding, but I wanted you to have a really good picture about what's happening. So let's make a start by getting the rest of the boards down in this section here. And now we can start getting the thick rock wool style insulation in. You'll probably see that there's some little sheets of 1 inch thick polystyrene up there already. We're keeping some of that, but where it's in the way or broken, then we're getting it down. And through the time lapse, you'll see I'm using a saw to cut the rolls to the width that I want, so that then they'll fit nicely up between the rafters. And Karen's cutting the insulation to the right length for me and passing it up to me on the ladder so that I can just slot them in there. So good bit of teamwork. So as you saw, Karen and I did a bit of work last night. We got the rest of this floor down and then some insulation up, but then I snipped off a wire that Finn needed. So now Finn's having to repair it, so being a bit naughty. Sorry Finn.
So repaired.
Oh, feel bad.
I'm just drilling it to it.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to cut any wires, you're not going to cut that one.
Yeah. Trying to make it idiot proof.
If that's possible.
So with all of the insulation that Lee and Finn and then Karen and I did downstairs in the garage, this is the master bedroom that's above it. So they've done quite a long way coming across, and then we added a little bit more. And then that only leaves a small amount that needs to be insulated. Well, I don't want to get more of the ceiling down in the garage because there's just so much to overboard and plaster already. And I already have some floorboards up from other work I've been doing, so I'm thinking about just lifting the floorboards and doing the final bit of insulating up here, and then that means our master bedroom will be nice and snug for this winter. And there's about 2.4 meters that still requires insulation under there. I'm going to measure, but I've got at least 2 wardrobes to move, maybe even a third one. And of course that means I'm going to have to empty them because they'll just be too heavy with all this stuff in. If you ever find yourself moving wardrobes, a lot of the weight is in the doors, especially if they're mirrored like this. So I'm going to whiz these off and that will make my job a lot easier. Probably should have explained that I want to get full lengths of floorboards up all the way from the left to the right. So some of these floorboards have been up previously because the electrician has been in here because we've had the house fully rewired. So some of these have just been sat in place. So that one just has a screw securing it. But basically we need 2 or 3 access places in order to get insulation down through these ceiling joists. So this could be one access point here, and then probably one over here nearer the wall. And as you can see, we've got some floorboards out, but there probably will be some cutting here. I've marked on it here, this is where the insulation needs to get to. And I can reach under, but probably I'm going to need another floorboard out either here or here, one of the two. Keep an eye on this thing as I'm using it because it's a good little machine. I'm going to use my little Bauer mini circular saw. I've set the depth so you can lock off the depth that you want, so that's about 20mm I've set it to. And then as you can see, you know, it does a plunge sort of action. Honestly, if you're taking floorboards up and you want to cut through the tongue and grooves or across the boards and you want to set the depth accurately, this is such a great tool. Really affordable too. So, I'll let you see it in action. So there's a bit of pry bar action required. If you wiggle them, that nail will start working its way out. And the aim is I want to get this board out intact. That's what's left of the old tongue, or yeah, the old tongue from the floorboard that's next to it. But yeah, came out in one piece. So yeah, there's just a similar job to do everywhere where I need floorboards out, which is here all the way along the window and the other areas I discussed earlier as well. Okay, so apologies in advance, there's going to be a lot of fan droning in the audio, and that's because it's time to work with the insulation. And even though this isn't as bad as the yellow stuff, you still get a lot of fibres floating off. And this is our bedroom and we're hoping to sleep in it tonight. So I've got that fan, which is quite powerful for its size, and then I've got the windows open at the back.
It's probably worth mentioning that a full roll downstairs is 1200 across, which means I can cut it into 3 smaller rolls of 400 each. And if you measure the joist, that's 360. So if I cut that to 400, then it makes a really nice snug fit in there.
Okay, so that's all the insulation done. Now we need to get the floorboards down, and then we need to get the wardrobes from over there put back where they need to be, because all the clothes are piled on the bed, and if I don't get that sorted, then we can't sleep tonight. So I'm going to cut some battens, and what they're going to do, let's point here, is between these spans, so halfway between the joists, I'll put a batten across underneath, and then that'll give extra support to this floorboard, because remember, we've cut through all the tongue and grooves, and that means everywhere, so it's a lot of battens, but it's worth doing because then that can make this floor feel as solid as it did originally. Okay, so let's get these battens in place. Here's one of my battens. I know I want it in the middle. Okay, that's one batten done. So just repeat that another 15 times. Okay, so that's the far row done. Now I've got all these to do, and then I need to cut more battens, and they have to be longer ones so I can do here. I'm going to skip past that because it's just more of the same, and then we'll pick up the action when I'm getting the floorboards in. And yes, it's a lot of screws, but they won't squeak, so that's the key thing. So obviously it's a lot of effort, but I'm wanting a good result. Okay, let's speed things along a little bit. Okay, so that's all the floorboards screwed down, but it's no time for celebrating because I need to clean up, get the wardrobes back in, the clothes back in the wardrobe, otherwise we don't have anywhere to sleep tonight. I'm feeling pretty exhausted, it's been a long day, but gotta push on, one final push. So, it's been a 10-hour day. Not the longest I've done, but I'm still pretty tired. And I'm ready for my dinner, a shower, and a little bit of relaxing. Maybe even a beer. So I hope that you're enjoying the videos. If I'm being honest, they are a massive amount of work to produce. To film and then to edit to try to bring this quality of video to you takes a lot of work. But I hope that it means that you're liking it, and if you are, it would mean the world to me if you would be willing to click that little subscribe button or maybe give me a thumbs up. Anyway, catch you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.